Good day and welcome. Matthew here again. We are at the Nations Cup round 22. Round 22? I think so. We're in 300 at Interlagos. So driving the BMW, as you can see, I started second. Qualified quite well, actually a 49.3. Holland ahead with a 49.0. We unfortunately lost Adam during qualifying. Like, he disconnected. We didn't lose him. He just disconnected. Alright, sorry for worrying you. But Adam disconnected in qualifying, so it only left really Holland as the toughest driver to beat. Schnick, I thought I might have had the measure of when I watched him in practice a bit earlier, so when he qualified third, I thought I might be able to just pull away and just concentrate on Holland. I had a late switch to the BMW. I was quite a fan of the F50, the Ferrari F50, and generally when I get a chance to drive a Ferrari that's competitive, then I will, unless it's manufacturers, in which case I'll drive a Ferrari which isn't competitive. But I really wanted to drive the F50. I decided, I think late the day before, when I started seeing some insane times come out of the BMW in the races with some practice with the Europeans, that I'd better switch just to give myself as good of a chance as possible. It's quite a tricky car to drive. It does like to oversteer on corner entry under heavy braking, and it will quite easily kick the rear out if you're accelerating and turning too hard. So my goal was to hang on to Holland, just stay within the draft. There was, I believe the draft was set to week as opposed to real, which gives you about 1.1 seconds in which the draft is going to be effective or somewhat effective. So it's not overly difficult to stay within that range. And I was still learning the how the car behaved through qualifying and through this race actually. So it was a bit of a learning experience for me because I'd switched so late. The F50 was quite a tame car by comparison to this thing. So I'd got it down to the point where I was quite happy with the times, but not quite where I wanted it to be. So I still had a bit of learning to do. But I knew I was fast enough just to hold on to Holland's bumper, just staying within the draft. The draft had enough of an effect to keep me in touch, and I was hoping that if he picked up a penalty, then I'd be in the right place to take advantage of that and get ahead. Really, without some of the top drivers turning up, the points on offer, you had to come first for the points to be worth a lot, in my position anyway. Maybe some of the other drivers, it was a good race for them, but for me personally in my fight, I really needed to come first. So I was kind of hoping to be able to hang on to his draft and get past him at some stage, either through a penalty or just going past him. But Holland was really quick. He was really on it and did a solid job of staying there, even though it was never more than sort of 6 or 7 tenths behind him. So the pressure was there for him, but he didn't really crack. He held on really, really well. So coming halfway around lap 3 now, Holland does pick up a penalty going across here. Must have been just the slightest cut on that grass. Only gets a second, but I thought, great, it's enough. I might be able to catch up to him just enough to get past him in the penalty zone. So for those people that don't know how the penalty zones work, there is a zone around the track at which point if you've got a penalty, it applies the brakes until the penalty starts counting down as soon as the brakes are applied, and when the penalty disappears you can accelerate. If you've got a longer penalty, say 4 or 5 seconds, the car will brake down to, I believe, 110 kilometers an hour, or is it 80 kilometers, something like that, 110 or 80 or around that level, around that speed, until that penalty disappears, and then you can reaccelerate. But say a 1 second penalty, it may just be on the brakes for a second. You might not even get down below 200 k's or 150 k's and then be able to accelerate again. So the penalty zone, as you see, he gets a yellow bar as he approaches it, warning the drivers behind that he's about to take a penalty, and he'll go invisible for a few moments, while he's in process of taking that penalty. But the penalty zone here basically ends almost in the braking zone of this corner. So at the stage where he hit the penalty zone, I was 0.7 behind him, and so he ends up 0.1 ahead of me. So he lost just over half a second with that 1 second penalty, which is fine. Like, that's how the game's made. But it seems really strange because you get tracks like Yamagiwa where the penalty zone is at the start of a very long straight out of a slow corner, so you need all the acceleration you can get, and a 1 second penalty there can cost you 2 or 3 seconds quite easily, and really hamper your chances at a good finishing position. And a lot of other tracks are actually like that. A lot of tracks have these quite painful penalty sections, but at Interlagos, because it's so far down the straight, you take your penalty and it basically ends where you'd be braking anyway, and you've already slowed down for the corner, so you're not having to scrub off more speed because you're already going slow enough into that corner. So even though he got a penalty, it was minor, and it would have been frustrating because it was such a small cut. But even though he got a penalty, because of this track and the setup, it's not affected him at all. Jump forward to the final lap. As you can see from my position, not a heck of a lot has changed in the past 4 laps. So I spent the time just trying to hang on to the back of Holland. As the race went on, I started to fall back around lap 5 and 6. In fact, I think the gap got out to 1.1 seconds at one stage, which was by far the worst it had been. And that was just with a mistake I made into one corner. But I managed to start to claw it back. Unfortunately, the race was so short, only 8 laps, with not really much tyre wear or fuel burn, that it's too late to do anything. But I'd been picking up on how Holland was driving certain corners and started replicating him in those corners where I thought I was weaker, and it was actually giving me a bit of speed, so it gave me a bit more confidence, and I got faster in the car as the race went on, which I was pretty happy with that, to be honest. But I still could not get past him. Get close. Get really close. Not going to dive him. It's just rude to brake a bit later and we'll just dive up the inside and knock him out of the way, which could have been easily done. But it's not how you race. So it looked good there. I thought maybe if I get a really good drive out of this corner, get a bit of a draft, or get in a slipstream and get him up to the line, but that's really difficult unless the car ahead makes a serious mistake, or makes a big enough mistake where they don't get the drive out of that corner. So we end up chasing him all the way down here. I was 0.4 at that last corner, and I get it down to 0.1, but it doesn't matter if I am 0.1, 0.5 or a second behind, I'm still in second place. So I pick up okay points. They're not really going to contribute to my championship position, but they might be a nice banker later in the season if the points start falling away and high point scoring is harder to come by. So it was a tough race, good race, well done by Holland. He drove a really good race, even with that penalty, which was nothing really. Well deserved win by him. And just a strange design choice by putting that penalty. You see those cars go off. Let's go have a look. What was that? Who was that? I have to go find that now. Schnick! Oh, not Schnick. Way too late into the braking zone. And that's really slippery out there. Oh, Schnick. No good. have a look. I'll go back there. Okay, let's go forward. Okay, so braking zone is basically this green post on the right. He's coming across, missed it by a mile. Ah, there goes third place. Haha, that sucks. Have to say there was a brave soul on the Ferrari. There's a few Ferraris. They're still great cars. I have to say the ART team, ART, well, the Alpha Racing team, they did a really nice job in the livery, so they're looking good. They've got some decent drivers in their team. And they've got a few cars. You can really tell them apart, because there goes another one. In the blue and white livery they run. Really nice. Anyway, that's beside the point. Great race from Holland. Really well deserved, even with that penalty. Probably didn't deserve that penalty, in all honesty. Gave me a little bit of hope for a moment. Unfortunately not to be this time, but maybe next time out. So next time we have Group 1 at Le Mans. So that's probably one of my favourite combinations. I love Group 1. I'm not enjoying the current tyre settings, tyre and fuel settings. So at the moment they're all just sprint races. You are running, you can just run flat out, don't have to worry about tyres, don't have to worry about fuel. You've got enough for the entire race, and often the races are shorter. You know, they're running 14 or 15 minutes, where in the past they've run 20 minutes. So that's a few laps, and that can count for a lot, especially with a bit of tyre wear on board. It can be a bit more difficult in the later stages, or other strategies may come up where you need a pit. So not a huge fan of the straight pure sprint race that we've got at the moment, and it does also encourage people to be more aggressive and push past people in braking zones. So I don't like to see that encouraged, but it is what it is. Group 1's always fun around Le Mans, and with the current settings we may see some Group C cars come through to dominate Le Mans. I hope so. Love to see a Group C race. It's going to be brilliant, whatever it is. Anyway, until then, thank you for coming along, thank you for watching, and we will catch you next time.